The Unplayable Podcast is proudly presented by Qantas, the official podcast partner and the official airline partner of Cricket Australia. Once again this season, Qantas is proud to be flying Australia's cricketers as they take on the world. Hello, welcome to the Unplayable Podcast. While Australia, they are out of the T20 World Cup. They haven't made the Super 8 phase. They won't make the semi-finals for the third year in a row, or third tournament in a row. And now we have to discuss how it happened and why it happened. My name is Josh Schonafinger. It's a pleasure to be back in the studio with now former player Kane Richardson. Richo, how's it going, mate?
Former player, current critic. No, it's good. We're in a beautiful studio, by the way. So no expense spared on the Unplayable Podcast these days. But disappointing circumstances to be talking about this week.
I'm sure you were up all night on Tuesday night watching the rain fall down in Pallekele. No match was played between Ireland and Zimbabwe. We needed, as Australians, for Ireland to win that match. But the draw, the split points, is enough for Zimbabwe to go through to the Super 8s.
Yeah, it's almost a fitting way for it to happen, isn't it? Just to watch the rainfall for a couple of hours. And I know the guys would have been sitting in their hotel room just watching the rain and hoping that the sun would have come out or the moon would have come out and they would have been able to play. But unfortunately, when you put yourself in these positions and you're relying on the weather not playing a part, then you probably don't deserve to go through. And as you say, 3 World Cups in a row now where not only semi-final, the last 2 editions to not make it through to the Super 8s or the next stage is so disappointing. So no doubt those guys are hurting, and unfortunately they have to front up for one more game and finish their World Cups super early.
Yeah, they've still got Oman on Friday night, so that's coming up. But before we get into the Australian analysis, last week we asked for some of the best moments in T20 World Cup history. This one probably won't go down from an Australian point of view. But we had some great responses, including one from Kashi who said, Afghanistan, South Africa, just this tournament. An amazing double super over that we saw, which included Stubbs hitting the last ball for 6 to take it to the super over, and then David Miller hitting 2 sixes, and then Gurbaz hitting 3 sixes in a row in the second super over. I mean, have you ever seen anything like that?
I don't think a double. No, that is worthy. Recency bias, but it's definitely a worthy nomination to go to double super overs.
Certainly.
Free cricket, as they say. So a worthy nomination, but there's been quite a few over the time. And obviously I think as an Australian, what are the Australian ones? But I'm sure the listeners got involved and probably weren't favouring Australian performances in the past.
No, they weren't. But, I mean, doesn't the super over, when it goes to a second super over, doesn't it make you wish that we had the count back still as it was in 2019? I mean, that's the way to go, isn't it?
Or the bowl off.
Or the bowl off.
Bring back the bowl off.
Yeah.
I remember watching that as a kid and I was like, I want to be involved in one, or maybe I don't because it'd be so embarrassing if you missed.
Yeah.
But can we bring that back?
Maybe, yeah. Maybe if the super over's tied, then we go to a bowl off.
Bowl off, bring it back, or the count back. Do you think the count back, or maybe we just have an arm wrestle or 2 up?
Kartik said that Kohli's 82 not out versus Pakistan in Melbourne. I was lucky enough to be there for that game. That was incredible. Amazing atmosphere, 100,000, very, very loud ground.
Yeah.
Bilal said the 2007 T20 World Cup final, his most heartbreaking moment as a Pakistan fan. Misbah al-Haq tried to ramp and got caught.
Yeah.
Tommy Flanners said Wadey and Stoin at the 2021 semi-final versus Pakistan. Again, another ramp. This one was successful for Matty Wade, though, wasn't it? And then we had plenty of people saying, remember the name, Carlos Brathwaite, Yuvraj Singh 6 sixes, and Mike Hussey's 60 not out of 24 against Pakistan back in 2010.
That's probably most of them, isn't it? I'm trying to think of any off the top of my head. I had the Stoinis and Wade one, but it is pretty famous now, going back 5 years. I can't think of too many more that capture the world audience, like, the 6 sixes, remember the name, ones that live in folklore now. So pretty good list. Very good list.
All right, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, let's talk about Australia's T20 World Cup and what went wrong. So it's been back-to-back losses for Australia at the T20 World Cup, which has seen them knocked out of the tournament. They fell to Zimbabwe by 23 runs, and then they lost to Sri Lanka by 8 wickets. Only took 4 wickets across those 2 matches, and the batting didn't quite click either, did it, Richo? Although Mitch Marsh came back into this side for the Sri Lankan game in Pallekele and got put on a 100-run partnership with Travis Head. They were going at 12 runs and over at the start of that innings, and things were looking pretty positive. But from there, They lost a couple of clumps of wickets. They lost 4 wickets in 5 overs after that opening partnership, and then lost 5-7 at the end. And then it was a Nissanka masterclass with the bat, wasn't it?
I think, disappointing. Two losses in a row. If you look back to the Zimbabwe one, that's probably the nail in the coffin. Having to rely on beating Sri Lanka in Sri Lanka is always going to be tough, especially when you're defending in the dew. So, as you said, the stuff you're talking about there, when you talk about T20 cricket, you need the flip side of that to go. You need that stuff going well to win. So to finish an innings well with the bat and then flowing on to the bowling innings sounds obvious, but you need to be taking wickets. And was it 4 wickets in 2 games? I mean, you're never going to win. You're never going to win games not taking wickets. So 2 different ways they lost. The Zimbabwe game chasing different. It was a day game, so they were under some asking rate pressure on a wicket that was slowing up. And then, as we just said, the Sri Lankan game with a bit of dew around trying to defend a score that should have arguably been 40 or 50 runs higher, which who knows may have not made a difference. But just so disappointing. That group will be hurting. The writing was probably somewhat on the wall after the Pakistan games. If you're looking for answers now, you go back to the lead in.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of guys missing, but I feel like T20, and especially from the bowling side of things, is such a hard game. You need your roles laid out. And the best teams I've ever seen and been a part of, the bowling group had such clarity around what time we're going to bowl, who's going to bowl when, what their plans are going to be. And it felt like from the outside looking at this team that they never really were able to get that sorted. And injuries obviously played a part with Hazelwood and Cummins not being there too. But the guys who were selected were coming off the Big Bash. They'd been playing T20 cricket, so there's no excuse.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask, is the Big Bash, which had another great season, is that adequate preparation for a T20 World Cup in foreign conditions, or should there have been more of an emphasis to get all those players over to Pakistan for those 3 matches and then the warm-up games?
I think, this is always going to be the argument with the Big Bash. You want the guys playing the finals. We've seen instances in the past where guys have flown off to play like a one-day series overseas and they're not playing Big Bash finals, and we want them playing Big Bash finals, but also we need both, I think, especially going into a World Cup. And as you said, in foreign conditions that are always a challenge for an Australian team to play in. So I don't know what the answer is. Scheduling is always going to be tough. There's always so much content in the calendar, but I think that's where those 3 games in Pakistan, take the 3 losses out of it. I just don't think they were able to get their best team sorted. They had basically 5 or 6 guys leave after that Pakistan series, come back and play Shield cricket, and all of a sudden, you're into the thick of a World Cup. You're trying to qualify with guys that have had 2 or 3 weeks out of the game, or in Tim David and Nathan Ellis's case, even longer. So, the writing was on the wall. You could kind of sense that things weren't going well, and then all of a sudden you have a really bad loss to Zimbabwe and things, you panic, don't you? So that just seems the way it's gone, and it's so disappointing because at their best, their form in 2025 was great leading into this, and it's almost like they were overprepared. They were ready for the World Cup in November last year, weren't they? And then they're kind of sitting around waiting and things just haven't gone well. So super disappointing.
Well, everything in cricket's about timing, isn't it? And just felt like maybe they were just flying at the wrong point of the calendar. But on the bowling point of view, I mean, you mentioned there's no Hazelwood, there's no Cummins, of course, due to injury. Stark's retired. And then all the wickets in the past 2 games have come from Stoinis and Green.
Yeah.
Very unusual to see Ellis and Zampa go without wickets, but then you've got your Connolly's and your Bartlett was there, and Kuhneman as well, I think, played that first game. Yeah. So there just hasn't been the wickets. And you said you need to take wickets to win matches and win World Cups. Yeah,
you do. And I think the Zampa Ellis part's big, but I think those 2 at their best are the defensive side of that bowling attack. If the team is the team you want out in the park, they're the 2 that are going to bring they're not going to go for more than, in Ellis's case, bowling the hard overs, but going for more than 35. Zampa's case is probably hardly ever going over 30 with the overs he bowls. And then you fit your attack in around that. Guys who do get wickets, we've spoken about the big 3 in the past, but to never take them for granted. And this just shows, when you haven't got Mitchell Stark there to take wickets with the new ball, Hazelwood doing the same, and Pat Cummins plugging holes around that, it makes it really hard. And we've seen Xavier Bartlett do it for the Heat. He had a bad game. Dwarshuis comes in to play that same role, doesn't get it sorted, and they go back to Bartlett. It just makes it so hard. And again, it just showed that there wasn't clarity at all with that bowling attack.
Yeah.
And it does leave a lot to do on Adam Zampa and Nathan Ellis's shoulders. And rightly or wrongly, they haven't performed the last two games. But again, I don't think that was their role. Their role was to bowl the hardest overs and be the hardest to hit, and then hopefully the guys around them kind of fill those holes. But yeah, the all-rounders have had to do some heavy lifting, and it hasn't paid off.
And then the big talking point ahead of the Sri Lanka game was bringing in Steve Smith into the squad. Everybody was finally cheering because there was a lot of groundswell to get Smith in after his big bash campaign. And then they left him on the bench, and they left out Matt Renshaw, who had been the leading run scorer from the first two matches. It was obviously a team that wanted to stick to their guns of the big hitting team that had been so successful over this past 12 months. But in the end, it's sort of one of those decisions that you look and you say, well, maybe that was the wrong call.
Yeah, I think there's hindsight definitely involved with that, isn't there? When they picked the squad, was the Big Bash, was it when Smith was going nuts in the Big Bash again? So, timing probably didn't work out. I think the way they started with the bat the other night with Head and Marsh, that's the way they played in 2025, right? And that's the identity they set up. Tim David coming in at 4, Green at 3, and then the all-rounders through the middle order. So I don't think you can argue with that when things are going well. But when Steve's playing well in the Big Bash, they changed the squad with Matt Short dropping out of the squad real close to the World Cup, which showed they are open to making changes. And then with Hazelwood going down, they kind of waited a while to replace him and then replaced him with Steve Smith, who doesn't end up playing. It does just show I don't think they knew how bad Mitch Marsh was going to be because Steve Smith has to open the batting if he's playing for Australia. You could argue in those conditions he could bat middle order, but him at his best in T20 cricket is open the batting, and that's where probably our two best batters.
Yeah.
Although Hetty hasn't been in the best of form for a little bit. So there's so many unknowns now, and it will be interesting to see this last game what they do, whether they do go the same again or whether they go, we got to start planning for the next World Cup because unfortunately, these things come around pretty quickly. So do you start planning and pick an order that you think, and you can't fly guys in for it, and you've got your squad. But do they start trying to change things up for the next edition, or do they just double down and finish the tournament as well as they can?
Well, so rare for Australia to play a dead rubber at a global tournament. But what would you do if you're in the selectors' seat? Who are you picking?
I don't know. I honestly don't know because obviously, again, Marsh and Head will be there in 2 years' time. Mitch is getting older now, but again, he's a batter only now, so they're going to age. He'll age fine. Will Steve Smith be there in 2 years' time? You could probably say he will. I know he wants to get to the Olympics, doesn't he? So all of a sudden, you got 3 guys in that top 2. Can you find a way to get Smithy a game in a different role that he can play in the future? Renshaw's the one that he had to have been playing the other night. I think just his adaptability, he's going to play a lot more in the next. He'll be at that World Cup, but he's going to play a lot. He'll basically play all the way through now to that next World Cup and make his position his own. But he was the standout batter that
he was
in the toughest position to bat in the middle order, and it just shown how much his game has grown. So for him not to play the other night was, you question that now. Again, it's in hindsight, but it didn't make any sense at the time. And the selectors are going to have to own that, and I'm sure they will. They'll come out and explain their thought process, and we'll judge them on that. And obviously they know that, but there's so many questions going forward.
Yeah, and of course when Australia lose, we want to pick apart all the decisions. These selectors have made a lot of great calls over the last 12, 24 months, haven't they? Even with the Ashes and those sorts of things. Do you think, though, we're at a time where there's all these, and this isn't a selector-based question, but with all the injuries around the fast bowlers and players in general now, with obviously Tim David doing that hamstring and then coming back, but Hazelwood, Cummins, then the young guys, Beardman and Vidler and Lance Morris and Aaron Hardy and all these other guys. Like, is there too much cricket, or do we need to look at how we're managing the most important players, which are fast bowlers in a lot of cases?
Is there too much cricket? There's a lot, isn't there? And you would know from covering the game. Like you almost can't keep up with everything that's going on across obviously both male and female, but it just shows how hard it is for a management to manage those guys. And again, we're talking about 3 of the best fast bowlers that we've ever produced and how much cricket they've played. So selectors, backroom staff, coaches, their plan for those guys over the last 5 years has been massive tick. And unfortunately, Starkey probably retired at the worst possible time for us in T20 cricket.
How selfish.
We needed him back, a little SOS, Michael Jordan out of retirement. But I think he's enjoying his downtime. So, again, you can't rely on those guys forever, and we spoke about this months ago. But now the question's going to be on the guys in between, those 25 to 30-year-olds, who's going to take the opportunity. And that's a pleasing thing as a selector and as a coaching group. You've got, you're going to see in the next World Cup edition who's going to put their hands up and be the next guy for Australia. And there's guys in the early 20s, but I don't think you can rely on those guys yet because they're missing. Beardman is injured again. Yep. Unfortunately, Vidler hasn't played at all this season. And then there's that good 19s crop that are coming through, but you can't really pencil them in for a World Cup in 2 years' time. So it's that 25, 30-year-olds. Jai Richardson's the one that I think his white ball stuff has gone under the radar because he's put such an emphasis on Test cricket and getting back fit for that. But I think if he's playing Test cricket and 4-day cricket, he'll be ready. And I think his white ball skills are as good as anyone in Australia. Yeah. So I think he's the one that really needs to take on that mental piece. Take on that I'm going to lead this bowling attack going forward in T20 cricket, and hopefully Hazelwood's still around 2 years' time. But again, we can't bank on that.
Yeah, Jai, I like that. He hasn't sort of been in the one-day reckoning for a while, has he? But definitely put his name down. And now I know T20 cricket hasn't really been a focus, or hasn't seemed like a focus for Australian cricket. Obviously, the focus on the Ashes and Test cricket, which makes sense. And maybe you can speak to this from your own career, having to bounce between formats. Do we need to get to a point where we are just having players play one format? Is it too difficult to go between the two and dominate at both? Do you need to just delineate the two and really focus in on what you're good at?
I'm probably the wrong guy to ask because I haven't really had a good format only.
But you had a career or a part of your career where you were bouncing between red ball and
I think domestic cricket's different though because it is such a laid out schedule now where it is mainly shield cricket. You play the odd one day and then it's Big Bash exclusively, whereas these Test guys, these all format guys are bouncing and they're overseas doing it. They're coming back. Like there's a lot going on. I think ideally the answer would be yes, but I think at the end of the day, especially World Cups, you want your best team. You're always going to pick your best team. And if it's a guy who's played in the Ashes just gone, then so be it. And I always felt, being behind those big guys, I always felt like, it needs, I was always like T20 specialist, and whenever things would go wrong and badly, people would suggest that. But then when, 2021 came around and they led us to a World Cup win, there's no argument about that. They're our best bowlers no matter what format. So, again, I think you want as many bowlers as possible to pick from in all formats of the game that are bowling well and playing well and upskilling, and that's the answer. So it's never going to be a perfect science. It's never going to be one or the other, and I don't think you want that either. Like you look at other countries that they're in the same boat. They're bowling attacks. England, they've got guys who just played in the Ashes that are playing in the T20 World Cup and doing well. So it's just everyone's in the same boat, really. You just got to hope you're lucky that you get generational quicks, but also some backup depth behind them that fill in those roles in the lead-ups to World Cups. And then when you get your World Cup, they're going to be cherry ripe for them.
Yeah. Australia seem to have the Test cricket stuff pretty well worked out. Whenever a one-day World Cup comes around, they're generally very competitive. Do we need to focus more on the T20 stuff, or is it just the afterthought?
But again, I think this is hindsight, and I think this is because things didn't go well that we're saying that. I think we have focused on it. Like our 2025 form, again, we're sitting here saying they look ready to go to win a World Cup, and then things haven't gone well since then. So I think it's very in the moment now that we're saying that we haven't focused on T20 cricket. I think we have. I think those guys, Andrew McDonald, will come out and say that they have. But, things haven't gone to plan, and that's the way it goes sometimes. Like important players got injured, whether or not they didn't even go over in the case of Hazelwood and Cummins, but also Ellis and David, their lead-ins they're two very important players, and their lead-ins were basically, non-existent. Yeah. So you take four of the real dependable guys in T20 cricket out of your team, it's going to be hard. So I think they had their eggs in the T20 basket after the Ashes.
Yeah.
And it's a World Cup. We've got a proud history in World Cups, and we don't ever go there thinking we're not going to win it. So that's why it is so disappointing. But the narrative that we don't care about T20 is very wrong.
Yeah, gotcha. Now, it obviously was a disappointing result in Colombo against Zimbabwe for Australia, but a golden day for Zimbabwe cricket. And we've also had some other golden moments throughout this tournament so far. One of my favourites being Italy beating Nepal by 10 wickets. We had the Mosca brothers from Sydney Grade Cricket getting the job done by themselves. Ben Menenti absolutely killing it on the international stage, which is great to see. He's actually the leading run scorer by all Australians at the tournament. So that's great from Ben.
Can we draft him into our team for the last game?
Maybe a trade.
Yeah.
And then Italy also took England all the way as well. So they've shown some really good signs. India took care of Pakistan. We touched on that double super over. I must admit, at the start of the tournament, I wasn't really looking that much forward to it. But now that the games have started and we've had some great matches, like I am fully invested in this tournament.
And I think, again, the benefit of having those associate nations or the lower seeded nations, you know, that's the benefit. Like there's games, we spoke last week how I think Nepal pushed England, USA pushed India. Like it just shows and Zimbabwe beating Australia just shows in the right conditions, the right circumstances, it's a competitive environment. And Italy, like it's great seeing these stories, and it is such a small, like it's a week and a half, 2 weeks of cricket before the Super 8 start, and it gets really serious. But it's great to see, you know, you got more players involved, you got storylines everywhere, you've got extra kits. We love the World Cup kits. But it's just, again, it is more content, but it's more opportunity for players to put their names up in lights. You know, Ben Menenti making 60 off 20 balls against England. Brilliant. Like that's incredible. He's struck at, 250 against our Ashes foes. So we're always going to love stories like that. So, and again, growing up as a kid, I always remember Zimbabwe being at World Cups, the Flower brothers, you know, Andy Bling, like they used to tour Australia in Test cricket. We want that again. We want as many countries involved as possible. We want to grow the game and have it being bigger than ever. So yeah, I'm a fan of this format, but again, for people who do follow the game and cover it every night, it probably makes your job a lot harder having to follow everything that's going on.
Yeah, but it's fun as well. So what you're saying is maybe down the track we could be looking at a one-day tour to Italy or something like that.
Well, no one's going to say no to that, are they?
That's going to be pretty good.
Well, it used to be, but they wanted, I remember the guys used to talk about they wanted like a Euro Bucks trip. So it'd be like Amsterdam, Dublin, and then Edinburgh for Scotland. You know, you get that trifecta and it's almost like you bring your best mates with you. If one of them's getting engaged, come along, we'll have a little Bucks weekend. So yeah, again, if we can get those guys back, we'll go to Milan for talking like I'm a player. Maybe I have to get in the coaching stuff, or we can go on.
There you go. Yep.
On assignment as a journalist.
Definitely.
Get to Milan. I think that they're talking Milan, Florence.
Maybe Rome.
I think they're dust bowls there. So again, we've got to start planning our T20 cricket.
5-match tour, I reckon.
Absolutely.
And West Indies, India, South Africa, Sri Lanka, at the time of recording, all those teams are undefeated. Who's going to win this tournament? Won't be Australia. Who's it going to be?
Well, I think in those conditions, India are going to be hard. But I like South Africa. I think, again, they played off in the final, didn't they, in the last edition?
That's right.
So I think they're coming again off the back of winning the World Test Championship as well. I like their team. I think they got the batting and the bowling down pat to this point. Things are going well, so I think they'll be a worthy challenger of India.
Okay, I like it.
What do you think?
Well, West Indies started the last tournament really well as well. They're at home. They sort of crumbled a bit at the end of the tournament. I think that might happen again to them, unfortunately. Sri Lanka, I have a sneaky suspicion they could challenge a few sides, maybe cause an upset or two further down the track. Things will change, obviously, when we get to Indian conditions. But I like their squad. I like who they've got in there at the minute, and I like Sanath Jayasuriya in charge of them as well. It's another great name. And
good return to form for them.
Absolutely. Yeah. So watch out for the Lankans.
Absolutely. It is important to know the Indian factor, the conditions. Yeah. Like it does play a part, chasing under, in the dew, that kind of thing. So you talk about the West Indies could fall away, but if they're in the position where they're chasing a 170 under lights with their batting order, with Pooran flying, that kind of thing, then you'd never rule them out. So T20 cricket is that way, that it is going to be hard to pick a winner. India do look pretty hard to beat. But again, if you get them in the right conditions, anyone can win.
Yeah, it's possible that these Indian conditions might suit the West Indies more than the West Indian conditions suited their team 2 years ago, isn't it? So all comes down to where they're playing, and I guess who wins the toss is so crucial in India as well, isn't it?
Exactly.
All right. Let's move on to the women's cricket side of things. The Scoop podcast has just restarted up as well. So if you want to get the inside scoop from Rana Hussain and Molly Strano, head over there now. Just search for the Scoop Cricket Podcast. But the Aussie women, they had a loss in their opening T20, unfortunately. The rain came down in Sydney and they weren't probably quite at their best. But we did have, Richo, some medal winners to announce throughout the week. Unfortunately, we're not having this year the presentation night of Alan Border Medal, Belinda Clark Award, which you might be able to share some stories from your experiences of going to those events. But we did have Annabelle Sutherland win her second back-to-back Belinda Clark Award for the best women's cricketer in the country. Beth Mooney won the T20 player for the fourth time. and the one-day player also went, Annabelle Sutherland. So congratulations to those two. They're just stars of the game at the minute.
Yeah, they are. Annabelle's kind of gone to another level, hasn't she, since, well, Louis Cameron said she was going to be the breakout player.
That's right.
Going back a few months, so he's probably sitting drinking.
He's pretty happy with that.
He's pretty happy with what went on. So, yeah, in terms of their content going forward, obviously disappointing. It's been a disappointing week for Australian cricket. It's nice to have some awards to think about, and hopefully they bounce back and get back into the series against India.
The domestic player of the year was Nicola Carey. She's been incredible for the Hurricanes and for Tasmania, and she's a special guest on this week's Scoop episode. So jump over there if you want to have a listen to Nick and the rest of the story and the women's side of the game. So we'll take a quick break. We'll come back with the big four and some listener questions for Richo. Okay, Richo, it's time for the big four. We debuted this segment last week. I'm still not totally sold on the name, but you gave us your top four associate players of all time. I think Dirk Nannes snuck in there at the end, didn't he? But
that was captain's call from you.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Well, this week you're going to be captain and I'm going to list off. But today's topic is Steve Smith mannerisms, because I thought him coming back into the squad during the week, now I was full of hope and optimism. He was back in the squad. Australia, they're still going to qualify. It didn't matter that they lost to Zimbabwe. Anyway, we get here now and we know what we know, but I'm still going to stick to this topic.
Okay.
Steve Smith mannerisms, the top four, or the big four. So we'll start with number four, and it is his no run. This sort of originated a few years ago, and he hasn't really done it a lot recently. Then I think Marnus took it to another level. But block the ball, no run, nice and loud at the bowler. That's my number one, because that's a classic, isn't it?
So that's your number one?
Oh, that's my number four.
Number four.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. It is a classic. Yeah,
it's a classic.
Wow. He should have trademarked it because, like you said, some other guy. Kids are saying it now. Everyone's saying it. So he should have put the little C next to him, but very, very iconic Smithy call.
Imagine if he could get royalties for every time.
So. I'm not sure he needs it. He's fine.
At number three is his umpiring when he gets struck on the pad. He often gives the umpire a little signal, a little helpful, that's going to miss, that's going to be too high. I think he does it subconsciously. I'm not even sure he's aware that he does it these days, but he gets struck and he's already deciding, too high, forget about it. And I know that Louis Cameron, another mention for Louis, he hates it. He hates when the batters try and influence the umpire's decision. And you might have some thoughts about that, being a former fast bowler yourself. You probably wouldn't have liked it or appreciated it.
Well, he was never out. Even when it was like 3 reds, he'd come the rooms never out. So, again, I don't think he knows he's doing it. It's almost muscle memory, isn't it? But he's going to make a great umpire. So once he does retire,
that's true.
Look for him getting fast-tracked into umpiring. Can't wait to see. It's going to be great.
At number 2, I've got Steve's extravagant leaves. You know, sometimes it'll be going down the leg side and he'll still put the bat all the way in the air as if to say, I'm not even going to think about touching that. Bowl it into my off stump or at least on the stumps, because that's ridiculous. And so he does that. He gets it going. I think when the extravagant leaves are really flowing, that's when you know he's in the zone and he's really got it.
Well, we spoke about that pre-Ashes. That's right. In the Shield game, he was up and about with his mannerisms, which is always a good sign. And it wasn't it, the way he performed. So I thought that would be number one for sure.
Did you?
Yeah, I thought that would be number one.
Well, number one, it's only come to light this summer, even though there is footage of him doing it for years prior. But it's the hand signal, isn't it? It's the little cupped hand and maybe a U shape that he's making. He claims it's not anything to do with the bowler. It's more of where his hand is on the bat. And he's always spoken about finding his hands, isn't he? And when he's found his hands, that's when it works. But it's the C. Now we see kids, when they hit the power surge button, they're doing the C. We see Milo cricket kids, they're doing it. It's part of meme culture now, the C. So, again, he's just influential, and it's this new mannerism that we love and hopefully it continues.
Well, Jake Weatherald had an interesting take on it as well, the origins of that hand signal going back to the South Australian dressing room.
Yeah, that's right.
Whether or not that is the same. But I know Jofra did it the other night at the World Cup. So
did he? I missed that.
Actually copped that from Smithy, didn't he, that night?
That's right, at the Gabba.
Too fast champion when there's nothing going on. He dished one out the other day. Daniel Drew, actually, who is rumoured to be the originator of that hand signal, put it on his Instagram. So I don't know. Do we need to delve into this more?
I think we do, because Jake on the Unplayable podcast before the Adelaide test told us that was a Daniel Drew signal for have a spell,
Yeah,
champ, or have a rest. Can you shed any light onto that inside the South Australian dressing room?
I was back end of my career there and being a lot older. I do remember guys doing that to each other, but again, being older, I was not paying any attention to what the young kids were doing. But yeah, it was definitely a thing. And then it was in club cricket as well. Guys were doing that to each other all the time. So
and everybody knew it meant have a spell.
Yeah, it's like a South Australian thing. Jake Fraser-McGurk does it quite a lot and says that quite a lot too.
To the bowler.
No, it's more off field. They say it to each other. If someone says something stupid, that's how they kind of pin them down.
So is it just could it be a coincidence that these two things have merged? And
I think so. But I think knowing Smithy would have put a cricket spin on it, and then it would have been to do with his hands, finding his hands. You saw in Sydney Smash, he hit that one out of the ground or on the roof and then did that at the dressing room or whatever. So knowing Smithy, he would have no idea what it actually meant originally, and he would have been tapping his bat, looking at his hand. It would have been like, oh, that's the same signal. And then the rest is history.
There you go. So a lot of people thought Jake might have been making it up, but there's a lot of truth behind what he's saying.
Yeah, I think it is.
There's also truth to what Steve's saying.
Actually, did you see Steve Smith playing live golf in the lead up to live golf?
I saw a little bit on Instagram.
Did you see the mannerisms?
No.
They translate to golf. So after he hit a shot, which is my favourite mannerism, when when one bounces a bit more than it should, or if it seems a bit more than it should, it's always he did it when we played warm-up soccer volleyball for the Sixers. If one bounced a bit much, he would do the same. Like that, he's done that since he was like 16 at the academy. I remember him doing that. So that's worthy mention for me as captain.
Nice. Put that at number 5.
Yeah.
You can't take the mannerisms out of Steve Smith.
Exactly. It translates all borders, all sports. And again, will be a great umpire.
If we've missed any, let us know. Podcasts@cricket.com.au. That's the email address to get in touch with, or the cricket.com.au Instagram page. Richo, let's go around the grounds quickly. The Sheffield Shield, of course, is underway. Again, round 8. And there have been some interesting scores so far. We are talking mid-round, so this will date fairly quickly. But hundreds to Sam Harper and Will Sutherland, and a 99 to Sam Fanning over in the West. Things are looking pretty good for batting over there. It's the only place in the country where runs are flowing.
It's the only place. Everywhere else, everyone's winning the toss and bowling, aren't they, on green ones again? So Sam Harper, interesting, opening the batting and playing the same way that he's kind of just flowed from the Big Bash and taking it on, striking it well over 100. So he's in some form and coming to the right age of his career where we can start to see a really good patch of performance. So Victoria look amazing, don't they? They're starting to really break away. They had a loss last week, but they look like well and truly establishing themselves as the team to beat and having a home final. So it's going to be who can challenge them. Yeah,
even that loss last week, even with that loss, they've still got a big buffer on second place, and that was without Scott Boland, Will Sutherland, without Matt Short, without Ollie Peake, and they brought all those 4 back in for this round. So it's an amazing depth that they've got there at the minute. Campbell Thompson is one who made his debut for South Australia this round. Left armour, looked very good on it was a helpful wicket up at the Gabba, but had Usman Khawaja in a lot of trouble early on and took a couple of wickets as well. So great signs for him. We got some runs from the Shield veterans, Jake Lehman and Jimmy Pearson. Gee, they're so reliable, aren't they? They get runs no matter the situation.
Well, it's so handy coming in that middle order when teams are under the pump. Like to have that guy who's always just going to find a way to get a 70. Jimmy Pearson, I think every time I ever played him in Shield cricket, he would always do that. Would never miss out. Only if they were going well, he would miss out. Yeah. That's where he's that guy who just back against the wall. Typical Queenslander, isn't he? Just never says die. So that's going to be, again, like you say, this will date, but it's going to be an interesting end to that game. With again, as we say, who's challenging for second? Queensland look like they could, but that result's going to really dictate that.
Definitely. And for South Australia, 5 wickets, 2. All-rounder, Liam Scott. Yes. He's had another tick to his name. He's had a great season and did it with the bat as well for the strikers in the Big Bash.
Yeah. No, it's been the summer of Scotty for you and for him and for South Australia and the strikers. So he's really put his name up in lights heading forward. And as we say, as we were talking about before with Australia going forward in white ball cricket, I know there's some good all-rounders in terms of, Cam Green's probably the same age, but, there's some other guys that are aging now. So for someone like that to be performing in the Big Bash under, crowd pressure and TV pressure, and now going back to Shield cricket and just really honing his craft is great to see. So, yeah, he's going to be one of those guys who has a big future for Australia.
And New South Wales, they're in a good position against Tasmania. New South Wales can still make the final as well. They've sacked their coach, Greg Shipperd. He's going to coach until the end of the season. And so maybe there's a bit more on the line for him and his charges this season. Liam Hatcher took 5 in the first innings. He's now the leading wicket taker in this year's Sheffield Shield. At 29, he's having a career best season, isn't he?
He is, yeah. He interestingly didn't play a lot in the Big Bash. I've always been a fan of his. I just think he's one of those guys who just runs in the same pace all day, bowls the same pace, real big heart, flat wickets, all the same. He would just never go away. So, worthy to be top of the wickets. And interesting, Jackson Bird's 100th game for Tasmania as well. So a shout out to him, playing against his first state, but also his former state. So it's funny how things work out. So he'll be looking to get in the wickets and get his Tassie team back into action. Absolutely.
Congratulations to Jackson Bird, one of the great servants of Sheffield Shield cricket. So hopefully there's going to be a day where he's not running in from at Belgrave Oval, and it's not just...
Is it? Is there, though?
It won't feel right if there is a day where...
Play forever. I'm being 35. I get out of bed sore. I don't know how, him, Peter Siddle, these guys, I don't know how they do it.
Sids is over 40 now, isn't he?
He is. He's not playing Shield cricket, but he's still bowling 140
you
plus.
Wouldn't put it past
I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
So, hats off to those guys. But yeah, Jackson Bird, I just feel like he's just going to play till he's 80. He's just going to run in from that same end and just plug away.
And why not?
Why not?
You can do it.
Exactly.
All right, we're going to finish with a couple of questions for you, Richo. We've got one from a listener and one from me, because you've eased into retirement. We're not just going to let you off the hook that easily. So I want to maybe drill down into a certain aspect of your career each week. And for this week, I want to look at what was the biggest 6 you were hit for?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's my question for you.
Do you want to drill down into my career? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, how long we got? Because, again, this is a pretty big catalogue.
There must be one or two that
there's definitely one or two come to mind. I think I've told one before about Rohit Sharma as indoor.
Oh, no, I don't know if we heard.
Didn't we? So playing in indoor, the city, pull shot out of the ground, small ground, but he hit it out of the ground, and the boys were like, he just hit you outdoor.
Oh, yeah, you did say that. That was a good one.
So that sticks.
So that's a classic.
It was a classic.
Did that ball come back? Or?
No, out of the ground. He charged, I dug it in, and he just Rohit Sharma pull shot. Just all the stars aligned. It was just perfect timing. So I doffed the cap. Well, I wasn't wearing a cap because I was bowling, but hats off to him.
There's no shame in getting hit for 6.
Well, he did that to me plenty of times. Again, lots of people have. The other one is Martin Guptill at Auckland at Eden Park.
Well, that's a small ground too.
It is, but they're not just hitting me into the first row. They're hitting me out of the ground. So
right.
Straight hit, not big, but basically the top of Eden Park Stadium, which is high, bang into that. So
wow. Were you playing in that game at Eden Park where Australia chased down 260 or whatever it was?
45, I think it was.
In that T20, were you there?
Yeah.
That one?
Yeah. Great game.
Great game for...
Got him in 3 overs to spare. I played that. So, numerous times I've been hit for big ones. Chris Gale at Bangalore, I remember he hit me for a stray one, hit kind of the corrugated iron and it came off.
Right.
It
back onto the field?
No, just straight down. Not the ball, the steel around the ground. The sign that hit fell. It was almost like it ruined the stadium.
That's danger for the crowd.
Yeah, I think it was where the sight screen was. So luckily, no one was there. But it was literally a traceable straight into the, what is it? What do we call it here in Australia?
Signage or?
No, it's like what we put in our roofs. Can't even think.
Colour bond.
Yeah, colour bond.
Yeah.
Bang, straight down. So it would have hurt someone if it fell on them. So,
wow.
Yeah. They're probably 3 that stand out. But I've got a lot.
Well, at least there's no troublers there. Like you've got Sharma, Gale, and Guptill. They're 3 of the big names of big hitters. So,
but there's been tail enders that have got me. So,
well, we don't have to delve.
We won't go into that. Not today.
Okay, good. And now the question that we've got in from Brady in Bandura, he says, Richo, what is the most embarrassing moment of your career, and why was it the missed run out versus Tasmania?
Well, do I need to divulge it?
Some people won't know the story.
Well, it's a famous story. It's quite high on the YouTube algorithm if you put my name in. But look, I'll go through what I felt at the time, and you can judge.
Sure.
Beautiful Yorker. That's probably the most important piece of the story. It was a great Yorker. It was the last over of the game. I think they needed 8. Beautiful Yorker.
Death overs.
Ben Hilfenhaus just chunked it back to me in my follow through. Ben Lachlan turns out started running as if it was a single and then gave up, started walking to the change room. I picked the ball up. I think I turned the opposite way to Ben, so I didn't know that he was walking off the ground. I thought I was under a bit of run out pressure, underarm, which was never a strength of mine, knowing just at training when we used to do underarm drills, never was good. Clipped leg.
Oh, so it's hit the stump.
I will argue that till the day I die, and I want some forensics on Zoom in, but it clipped leg.
Right.
Deviated down to long on for one. Bails didn't come off. So when I say it clipped, it must have been the smallest.
But you do see that, don't you, these days when the ball can zoom past?
Are you making me feel better? Because I was about that far away from the stumps.
A metre?
3 to aim at.
Not even a metre?
Yeah, maybe a metre. We're the danger zone kind of area.
Right.
So I thought I was under more pressure than what I was.
Yeah. So
that's basically how
was it harder to miss than to hit, is what you're saying?
Yes, absolutely. But again, not a strength of my game. Anyone out there, we don't practice underarms, especially under pressure, ever. It's not an area of our game we practice.
No. But I'm sure you would have gone on to win the game regardless.
No, we lost. So that's also why, that's why it's that. So embarrassing moments of everyone drops catches, but no, not many people miss run-outs from that close with 3 stumps to aim at in the last over a game and then go on to lose. But it was a one-day game against Tasmania at Bankstown. So I think we should close the record on that and burn that record and never talk about it again, because what a pointless game. Okay. Again, now I'm retired, I can say that.
Yeah, that's right.
Pointless.
I think that's a good way to end.
It's been great. Thanks for bringing both those 2 segments up. It's always nice to talk about my old cricketing career.
This has been the Unplayable Podcast, brought to you by Qantas. We'll chat to you next week.
Thanks, Josh.